director Tayarisha Poe's feature film debut, Selah and the Spades, made its world premiere as a next selection at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival. Amazon acquired the rights to the film. Amazon is developing an original series based on the teen drama, which Tayarisha will write, direct, and produce, as reported by IndieWire.
Hi, welcome. Our next guest, Lovie Simone, who plays Selah, was included in Variety's Young Hollywood Impact Report of Talent to Watch. She currently stars as Zora Greenleaf on OWN's hit drama series Greenleaf, executive produced by Oprah Winfrey, which recently received an NAACP nomination for Outstanding Drama Series. Additional credits include A24's Cher and the indie feature Monster, Orange is the New Black, Blue Bloods, and she's set to star in the Blumhouse remake of The Craft, written and directed by Zoe Lister-Jones. Welcome, Lovie.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
And next up is Celeste O'Connor, who played a young Gugu Mabuthu Ra in Irreplaceable You, alongside Michael Huisman, Stephen Coogan, Christopher Walken, and Kate McKinnon. Celeste appeared in the independent film Wetlands, where she played Amy. The film was directed by Emmanuel Del Valle and also stars Heather Graham, Jennifer Eel, and Anthony Mackie. Welcome, Celeste.
Hi.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This is so exciting to talk with you all on the premiere day. So let's start about how this film came into being, Tayarisha. What was your inspiration for Selah and the Spades?
So I went to boarding school for part of high school, and that was part of the inspiration. But another very large part was my love of The Godfather and Breaking Bad and The Sopranos and all of those movies and TV shows about men behaving badly. I wanted to see someone who looked like me behave badly. And that's really the genesis of the whole film. So, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience going through Sundance and all the labs to get to this process?
Yeah, the labs were so helpful. And I know that I say that to everyone, but I mean it, which is why I keep saying it. The great thing about the labs is that they craft this environment in which you're not only set up to fail, but failure is the point. Like, the whole point of the labs, I feel, is to like try new things and get it wrong, and like try it again and get it wrong again, and like try something else and also get it wrong. Like, the point of the labs is not to go in with a perfect script and then make perfect scenes and get everything correct. So I really appreciated that environment, because it really helps you separate your ego from your artwork. And I think that that's really useful, because then critique of the work itself doesn't become like a personal critique of you as a person, but it's just about the work. Yeah, that was the big thing for me, just having space to make mistakes and really being encouraged to make mistakes so that I could learn new things. I like that. I like when life feels like school, probably because my parents are teachers.
Lovie and Celeste, can you talk about what first grabbed your attention about the screenplay?
A lot like Tayarisha. For me, I didn't go to a boarding school. I went to a public school, and I had very strict parents. So I definitely was curious to see what life would be like if I did have that freedom and if I could act out however. And also, I did love Selah's boss energy. And I loved her relationship with Paloma. Like, everything was just perfect and screaming at me to like just get this part. So I'm just really happy that I went forward with that.
Yeah, definitely Selah and Paloma's relationship was like one of the most interesting things about it to me. I was really interested in Paloma because we were kind of going through like similar stages in our life at the time. Like, she was this new girl entering a new school, new social space, trying to figure out like where she fits in. And I also at the time was a freshman in college. So I was kind of going through like a similar like phase in my life, and it's like, wow, this would be so interesting to see this person in such a similar situation, but this person who's so different from me in a lot of ways, and just to like see how that plays out in such like more intense scenarios than I've experienced in college yet.
So it seemed like it was the perfect casting. I'm really curious what your perspective on casting was from the director's perspective and from the actor's perspective.
on one hand, for me, I find casting to be, I love it because I really just like talking to people, and I like making people feel comfortable in awkward situations, and I feel like casting is the most awkward situation in the world. And so I'm just like, oh no, we're good, everything's great. So I don't know. I like it for that reason. And I also just really love watching people talk. I love watching how people hold their bodies differently from other people, and I love seeing how people say words differently. So it's kind of thrilling for me to like see different people do the same scene over and over. I like it a lot. And then it's always so, for lack of a better word, magical when somebody walks into a room and you're like, oh yes, this person exactly, before they even open their mouths. Like Celeste and Lovie, both of you guys for me were tapes, so that was its own magical experience. But off the top of my head, I remember being in the room when Hunter walked in, who plays Tarrant, and he was just like this like chill guy, his hair like flopping around. He was like, hey, what's up, man? And he just has this like very affable, for lack of a better phrase, like surfer boy energy. And it was like, as soon as I saw him, it was like, yes, this is Tarrant. So it's kind of a thrilling experience and exhausting.
And how about from Lovie and Celeste's perspective?
I think I was added on later in the casting process. Like I sent like this tape into the void, and I was like, okay. And then like when I then like FaceTimed or Skyped with Tayarisha, the casting director, I was like, oh wow, like Tayarisha's really cool. I was like, I really would love this part now that I've met Tayarisha. And then it wasn't until like I actually got there that I like met people in person and like met the rest of the cast also. So I was kind of out of the loop of all the casting happenings.
So for me, Tayarisha, honestly, after we got off that FaceTime call, I was just like, this would be nice to, manifest this situation. Because I auditioned for Paloma, and then I auditioned for Selah. So I auditioned for both of them. And I was like, I just want to be a part, So it was like very cool, like that it ended up happening, because I also got off of FaceTime with Tayarisha, like, wow, that'd be nice.
Tayarisha, did you always plan on directing this film from the very beginning when you started writing the film, or was that something that came later?
Yes, I always planned to direct it. It just felt, I was always going to direct this. Yeah.
What was it like working with Tayarisha as a director?
Not
to put anyone on the spot.
The best thing ever. Like, it's like working with your older sister who like hears you out, but like has her vision. So it's like you respect her vision. And then also it's like the way she directs just blends so well with like actors, because it's like she puts you in the situation and she's like, okay, like you're here and everything like led up to this, and like how would you feel? Like, don't say anything. I'll just say action, and I'll be like, okay, I got it, I'm in it. And then you really just get immersed in that entire world for like the 6 minutes that the scene will be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that, like, I mean, there are so many great parts of like being a part of this, but like one of the best parts for me, like especially in the scene where Paloma has to like punch that guy, I was so terrified. I was so scared to do that scene. I was like, I've never punched anyone in my life. Like, I don't know how to do this. And like Tayarisha just like took me aside and sat me down, and we like talked about like we stripped down the context, and we were just thinking about like, or she did that for me, was stripping down the context and saying like, what are the core emotions of what's happening, and just take that and use that, instead of being like, okay, I need you to say these words and step right here and then move your arm like this. Like, it was just, and at the time I didn't really have like a big frame of reference, but looking back, I'm like, oh wow, like that is so perfect.
Tayarisha, can you talk about the process of getting this film financed and off the ground?
We got all of our funding through Sundance Catalyst. So what Catalyst is this invited program where you get the chance to pitch your idea to an audience of investors, which is like a little bit terrifying, but for me was perfect. I would much rather have the opportunity to pitch to like hundreds of people at once than to have to go around to every meeting, talking to every individual, going through the motions of small talk, and then leading into pitching and all of that. I much prefer just like get onto a stage and perform. That's easier. So we did that, and we got a ton of meetings, and then we built this community of investors who just really supported us and weren't there to say like, oh, I'm an investor with money, but also I make movies and I think this is what you really should be doing with your vision and stuff like that. They just wanted to ride, like they just wanted to be a part of it. And it really, you felt the difference because it felt like, at least I never felt alone. I always felt like I was going on this journey with a bunch of people who were there to support me. And I felt like I had, again, it was like about creating a similar environment to the one that I had at the Sundance Labs, where it felt like community and support, and where you felt safe enough to fail. Because I think that when you feel safe enough to fail, you don't stop yourself from trying things that might not work. And we tried a lot of stuff that might not work in this movie, and then it worked. Sometimes it didn't work though, and we cut that out, so it's fine.
Did you ever feel like you couldn't take someone's money because they weren't like, that you didn't have the right feeling with them?
Yeah, totally.
How do you turn down someone's money when like you need the money to make a film?
Oh, well, the good thing is that I have a great producer, Lauren McBride, and she technically is the one who has to turn people down. So I get to be just like, oh yeah, the cool, chill director person, and then Lauren gives the bad news. So it's cool. I didn't have to do it. But yes, we did do that.
I was reading through all the tweets, the live tweets, and it seemed like people were obsessed with the color palette and the look and feel of the film. Can you talk about the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, I, as a person, love color. You can see like, that's my favorite blue book. Oh, there's my dog. That's my favorite blue bookshelf in the background. I don't know, I got this shirt on. I just really love color. And I really love, like, I don't even love color in the sense of like everything matches and looks like it all fits together. I just love color. Like, I love to feel overwhelmed by color. So it was very important to me that we didn't try to limit the like poppy colorfulness that I associate with youth just because this is a story about baby mobsters. And so we really leaned into that. But one cool thing that we did, let me see if, I wish there was a way I could like send a photo from my phone. One cool thing that we did was during prep, we had a color meeting with the department heads where we all just sat around a table and like talked about color as it relates to power. And we referenced heathers and that like red scrunchie that signifies which heather is the one with the power. So we talked about what is that color for the factions and like, let me find the, it's fine. I'm not going to find it right now. But like each faction sort of has like a color theme and like it's all, I don't want to say it's all subtle because it's not, it's all just color. It's not a big deal. But at the same time, we really planned it out and thought about it. So it is all subtle. I'll post on my Instagram the pages that I'm trying to reference and that I wish I could show right now. There are a few pages from our production designer's journal where she took notes of our color meeting. And it's just kind of fascinating to watch like, or to see these ideas that we were just like throwing around the table and I was scribbling in giant letters on a whiteboard to see them like really neatly presented. The bobbies are these colors because of this. The spades are this because of this. So I'll post it to my Instagram.
It's so cool to see that stuff come to life from the initial ideas and to see that come to the actual screen. Shifting gears a bit for the actors, I'd love to hear, I mean, what were you like in high school? How did you bring your high school experience to this film? And maybe what faction would you have been in?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I think that I was kind of similar to Paloma in high school. I feel like just in the way of like, I kind of was always like trying to figure out where I fit in and I was like, okay, I guess this is not similar to Paloma because she kind of found her people pretty quickly. But like for me, I feel like I was like, okay, like I'll be friends with these people and then other people. And so I kind of was always like trying to figure out where I fit in, which I think a lot of people can relate to. And it was definitely something that Paloma was doing at the beginning. But I think I think I would have been either in the C or the Bobbies in high school. I think that I definitely could have written some essays and made a couple of bucks off of the people from my essays or test answers. But yeah, either that or like throwing events and like doing theater and stuff.
Now, like the me now, I would say I would be a skin. Definitely all about profit. Definitely want to keep it light. Like I'm not trying to be as intense as the Spades. I don't think I have that in me right now. But when I was in high school, I would not have been in a faction. I was very much like Paloma, like a Paloma Selah mix.
Tayarisha, what faction would you have been in, and what were you like in high school?
I was all right in high school. What faction would I have been in? It would have been really hard for me to choose a faction. I popped around a lot. I just like to hang out with everybody. I liked being cool with everybody. I guess that's the kind of person I was in high school. I feel like looking back on high school, it felt as though I was just collecting stories, unfortunately. So I don't know if that counts as using people. I don't know. It probably does. I don't know if that's just what being a writer is, though. So I probably would have been in every single faction and just played them all off of each other.
So I've just been like screening through the comments in the chat section, and just so many people have written basically thank you for representing themselves, for showing a Black protagonist, Black stories. It meant a lot to a lot of people. So I just wanted to make sure to highlight that, those comments. I think we are going to move to the audience questions. Casey G asked, in your mind, is Selah asexual or just against the system that chooses to objectify her, or both?
Oh, both. For sure, both. I was about to say, oh, she's asexual, but then I continued listening. We should always listen before we answer questions. Both. Great question. She's both. That was very important to me, and it's been true since the beginning. I think that Selah is asexual, but she doesn't have the language for it yet. I think she just doesn't really know what it's called, but she knows what she feels and what she doesn't feel, and she knows what other people around her are beginning to become very concerned with. Great question.
Caitlin Smith asked, she said she knows things are crazy right now, but she really wants to know if you have any upcoming projects, Tayarisha. And also a bunch of people were asking about everyone's upcoming projects. So after Tayarisha, Lovie, and Celeste, can you also jump in on this?
Do I have upcoming projects? Yes, I do. Yeah, I've been writing a lot, and I have something that I'm supposed to turn in next week. I wonder if they're on this chat, actually. But yeah, I'm working on another movie, and I can't say anything about it yet, but I'm very excited.
I have a project coming out hopefully this fall if things get back to normal. And it's Blumhouse and Universal Studios project that doesn't have an official title yet. And then I have Ghostbusters coming out next March. So it was supposed to be July, but it got pushed back, definitely for good reason. But yeah, that's what's up next.
The craft I have coming up, and before quarantine it started, I was working on Power Book 3, and it's prequel for the Power series on Stars. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
All right, so Maya asked, what barriers, if any, did you face making a film with a multifaceted young Black protagonist?
Yeah, obviously people are used to what they're used to, right? So you kind of have to convince people. Sometimes it felt like convincing people that fairies exist. Like, it felt really effing hard. For a lot of reasons, because this was my first feature film, that was part of it. But more than that, it was, people just aren't used to seeing stories about Black girls doing whatever the fuck they want and not being punished for it. And I think that, and then when you push, it's hard to get people to recognize their own prejudices. So I found that it was easier to either work with people who were upfront about their prejudices, and so there were no hidden warnings or anything like that, or with people who didn't have them, and that was the best part. So there were plenty of hurdles. I mean, luckily I know who I am and I know what I'm doing. Like, I always believed in what we were working for and what we were working towards, and I always knew that it was gonna work. I just knew that it was gonna work. And so I feel like when you inevitably face those challengers, I like to think of them as like old world order challengers. That's it. It's just, they're not yet ready for the new world, and this is the new world. So it's not like you're going to, I don't think it's really beneficial to spend all of your time convincing those of the old world to join the new, because eventually they're going to die. So, I mean, not to get like morbid, but like, old world is old for a reason. Catch up, like, keep up. This is what we're doing. Either join us or get left behind. So once I kind of, put that into my brain, those challenges just seemed like permission to keep moving forward, because I don't really want anybody on the team who's not down to ride anyway. So thanks for letting me know. You know what I mean?
Let's ask a two-parter from Tiana Chung. So first of all, what key advice do you have on pitching your script to production studios, including like the main things that producers typically look for, such as A-list actors or a visual deck, etc. But also, do you recommend self-financing your first feature film rather than waiting for a studio to greenlight it?
Good questions.
If you have the money to self-finance a film, then you should totally do that. I think that sounds great. But at the same time, had I had the money to self-finance Selah back when I first wrote it, it wouldn't be this. So I do think that there's something to be said for when you finance with others, it's almost as though I think that there's some good in being beholden to other people, because you're not just trying to service your own ego and your own pocketbook. So I do think that I love that aspect of filmmaking, that it's about a community and about building the community. So I would encourage people to do that, even though it means a lot of hard conversations about finding funding. My biggest recommendation for going out to investors and producers is something that we did really early on, and that's have a really good lookbook. I think that's so important. And I think it's so important because it's really hard sometimes to just tell someone with words what you're telling with images. It's a visual medium. Lean into that and take advantage of that, because then you get the chance to just trick somebody into joining you because you put together a bunch of cool images. That's great. You don't even have to say anything. It's amazing. I would also recommend because there's a lot of lookbooks out there now. So if, say, you're going to a pitch session, or even if you're just emailing a PDF around, take the time to make it well designed. Take the time to make it look fucking good. Like, that lookbook should be something that people want to put on the coffee table, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, it should be something people just want to browse. People just they're like drawn to the images and they just want to look through it. That's it. That should be the point of your lookbook.
Is there a service that you'd recommend using, like a software that you used? Or
Oh, I used InDesign to make mine. But I've been like designing little books and stuff for myself since I was in high school. So also Tumblr and stuff like that, like Zenga, Tumblr, MySpace. I feel like they just made a whole generation of people really into graphic design. So Yeah, I highly recommend in this period of isolation taking the time to learn how to design something. Graphic design will just, I mean, it sets you apart. It really does. And now there's all these apps and stuff that makes it so easy to do collages and things like that. But make a good lookbook. That so many things just get thrown out because of the lookbook. It's unfortunate.
From Maddie Wheeler, for all of you, what was your favorite scene to film?
There's so many. But I think for me, the party scene where we have like the masks, like the first party, not prom, was really fun for me to shoot because like we were just listening to like good music and just like dancing around. And there was like one point where like a song came on that was like really hype and like everyone, like all the extras and everything, like started dancing like for real. And they were like, wait, we need to roll or stop or something. And
way too hype.
And that was just so fun.
I would also say the party scene, but like when I cannot stress this enough, like every scene was fun, you know, like every single scene was like fun. I would say my favorite was the scene that we were in like the field just like running and acting crazy because I do like freedom, and I did like that Tayarisha wanted us to kind of just do whatever because that was so us, and I love that like our actual relationships translate as like Maxi, Paloma, and Selah like all together. So I loved having that moment. Like it just solidified everything I needed to know.
Also the part where in the movie, I can't believe you guys kept in when Lovie was like, hey, want to see a dead body? That was not scripted. Like I can't believe you guys kept that in there.
I was so happy that they kept that in there, and I was so happy that I saw it like on the little subtitles. I was like, yes.
Selah and the Spades, written by Lovie Simone. Yeah, so my favorite scene. Those are both good options. I think my favorite scene might be when Selah invites Paloma back to her bedroom for the first time, and they're like having that back and forth because Selah and Paloma in that scene are so awkward. They're just so awkward. And you're sitting there like, oh my God, I feel like you guys kind of maybe want to make out, but also I'm not sure what's going on here. What's going on? Why are you so awkward? And I just feel like it's really youthful. I feel like it's very honest and it's very sweet. We shot that scene during the last week of production. So also the two of them, Lovie and Celeste, were like the same person. They had molded together into one gigantic like marshmallow of affection and sarcasm. So shooting that scene during the last week was very gratifying, where they had to act like, oh yeah, we don't really know each other that well. We're just like coy and shy right now. Oh, do you want to come hang out? Do you want to go see a prank? Whatever. So I have a soft spot in my heart for that. Also because Selah's talking about like, basically she's talking about her sexual orientation while she's literally standing in the closet. And I don't know, I just love that moment. So I love that scene.
So speaking of that scene, Yasmin Fo Chung Brown asks, was the love and admiration that Paloma had towards Selah meant to be romantic or platonic, like that of a best friend or a mentee looking up to their mentor?
I feel like we talked about this before we even started shooting, Celeste, didn't we? Yeah, we very much always talked about, like, Paloma's clearly in love with Selah. At least for me, it's really clear. But what do you think, Celeste?
I think that it's supposed to be a mystery. I don't know if there's really like a right answer to that. I think the fact that it's a mystery is much more like truthful to reality and like how relationships are when you're growing up. Like when you're in high school, obviously like you're just first figuring out your sexual orientation, and you maybe don't have the language for it, or you're unsure. And so I think the fact that we don't really know is like what makes it so real.
It's just like, you know that you are feeling things. You don't really know exactly what you're feeling, but you know you are feeling an overwhelming amount of things. So it's just about this overwhelming expression of emotion that I think a lot of teenagers tend to have because, like you said really well, this is the first time you're starting to feel certain things.
Tayarisha, Erica Jolie asks more about how you went through the creative process from start to finish, such as when did you start writing the script? How did you get funding? And you talked about that a little bit, but when was that in the process? And overall, just if you have any advice for young filmmakers.
So I started, the first short story I wrote in this world, because it started out as a series of short stories, was 2012, which is so long ago. And then I kind of put that short story aside and didn't touch it for like a long time, like a year. And in 2013, 2013, Beyonce released Self-Titled. And when that came out, I was in bed and I was like, I think Beyonce dropped an album. And then I checked and she did. Tumblr was going crazy because everything was all about Tumblr then. So I stayed up until like 7 a.m. rewatching the album. And I was just really inspired by Beyonce's creative output and her work ethic. And I thought, if Beyonce can do this, surely I can do something with that short story I wrote about Selah Summers a year ago. So I spent the next month writing a short story every day, just as a creative exercise and as a way to, I don't know, just hold myself accountable to myself. Well, I guess that's what holding yourself accountable means, but whatever. So I wrote a short story every day for a month. And then the next summer I took like 14 of those stories and I turned them into this thing called Selah and the Spades and Overture, which is a collection of short stories, these photo stories that I shot, and these short films that I made with some teenagers in West Philly. And then the thing is that I did all of that because I knew I eventually wanted to make a feature film, but I'd never written a feature film before. And so I figured I may as well write what I do know, which is short stories. And then from that, they will inform me. That doesn't make sense. They'll tell me what the feature film is supposed to be about. So that was my basic writing process. I like to build worlds first and then sort of like start very big picture and narrow it in until I get to like the fact that Selah really loves the smell of freshly printed paper. Like details like that, I feel like really make us believe in the characters and their logic.
Go for Sam King. Hi, Sam King asks, what do you recommend filmmakers do to ensure people of color are lit properly?
Lit properly?
Well, yeah, lit properly.
That's a really important question because if I'm watching your stuff and they're not lit properly, I kind of turn it off. Like, I'm totally honest with you because I feel like if you can't even make sure you can see us, then why am I watching this? What kind of disrespect is that? I think that it's really important to be, just to be blunt and honest about the need to make sure that that's happening at all times in the beginning. So like in prep, you have to be upfront with your producers. We need a makeup person who knows what they're doing. And from the beginning, Joan was our DP. We talked to her about just like oiling up people's faces so that they glow, so that we don't have to necessarily overload on light in order to catch light. So it is just about working with people. Also, it's about working with people who also care about what you care about. So if you want to make sure that the people of color in your film are lit properly, you better check out the work of the makeup artist and the DP and the grip and make sure you guys are all on the same page. That's all you need to do, because if you are open about that and if you are blunt and clear, then if people don't do what you're saying the story needs, then they're not the right people for the story. That's fine. Make a change. But you got to be open about it.
India Jackson is asking, any advice for anyone trying to get into the industry, whether it be as an actor, writer, director, anything else? So this question is for all of you.
For actors, I would say to find an agent that you can trust. Like that would be kind of like your second family. That's what made it a lot easier for me as an actress, because like they actually, like Tayarisha said, like they share my vision with me and like they understand me like as a person and as an artist, so it's a lot easier to go about my days once I have that foundation. And then also, like Tayarisha said again, like be creative, even on your downtime. If you're not auditioning, memorize a monologue, or just like explore or watch movies like Celeste said. So it's just a whole bunch of like lifestyle stuff. I feel like that could also help with acting, and also that can help you as an actor too.
I totally agree with everything you just said. Totally that.
The most important thing that you can do is not wait for people to give you permission, which I know is something that people always say, but it's very true. I'm reminded of that speech. I don't remember where she was. I think it was like a luncheon or something. How do you pronounce her last name? DuVernay? But it's a speech that she gave about how sometimes when we really want something, we tend to just constantly be asking other people how we can get what we want. And what I took away from that speech, I think this was back in 2014, so before I even had a hope of making this film, what I took away from it was you should just be doing the work. You should always be doing the work. You should always be doing the work for yourself. Because then if you're going out to people saying, hey, I'm really trying to get into the industry, what should I do? Then you also have something, and you've also already been doing something to get into the industry. I also don't know if I love the phrase get into the industry, but that's a different thing. So what I took from that speech that she gave is just you should be working. You should be working for you. Because the cool thing about craft, like creative crafts, is that unfortunately we live in a society where we have to monetize our crafts so that we can afford to live and have healthcare and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's a thing that we can be working at getting better at all on our own. And I like that. I think that that's really pure. Just the idea that I can work at something and get better without anybody watching me or waiting for me or without any deadline or anything like that. I, Tayarisha, can work to become a better writer. And I, Tayarisha, can take my camera and think about frames and photos and figure out how to capture things better. I can do that for myself at any time. And I like anything that, I like anything that reminds me that I don't need to wait for permission from some gatekeeper in an industry in order to do what I want to do. I could just do it. And then again, I guess this is a common theme with me. You can either see the worth in what I'm trying to do right now and get on board, or we're just going to go and we're going to do it, and then we'll show you. And you'll wish that you had joined, hopefully. Probably. Yeah.
I love that. That's like exactly how Katrina and I operate. We started Women's Weekend Film Challenge because it was hard to get opportunities, and we were realizing that other people are facing the exact same thing. So we're like, let's stop waiting around for other people to give us permission. Let's just create opportunities for everyone else and see where it leads us. And 30 films later. So Elena Acker, hi Elena. She asked Tayarisha, who are your favorite filmmakers? And I also want to open that up to Celeste and Lovie as well.
It's a good question. I always forget whenever anybody asks me because I get really flustered when people ask me questions, as you can tell. So I write them down. But some of my favorite filmmakers, Ryan Johnson, who did Brick, Looper, Brothers Bloom, and a Star Wars movie, but I didn't see that one. Casey Lemons is a big one for me. Eve's Bayou was a very formative cinematic experience in my life. I feel like Eve's Bayou gave me permission as a young kid when I saw it to continue to be hard-headed throughout the rest of my life. So I think that that's really important in viewing, especially for Black girls. I really love Yorgos Lanthimos. I think he's hilarious, but I always feel weird telling people how funny I find his movies because I don't know if they're supposed to be funny, and they're like really sad. But The Lobster, hilarious. Killing of a Sacred Deer, amazing, so funny. But again, I don't think it's supposed to be funny, and that's what I find to be so brilliant about him. I really love Marie Antoinette by Sofia Coppola. It's actually like a very influential film for me because I think that in that movie in particular, she just doesn't really give a crap what you mean by historical film. She's just like, yeah, that's right. They're listening to some nice classic rock. I don't know. I really love the just like she blurs the lines between fiction and reality in a really cool way with historical fiction. So that film is really influential for me. Yeah, those are the ones at the top of my head.
I personally am on a Bong Joon-ho wave right now. I'm so obsessed with him, so I'll put that out there. Everyone should see Parasite and also his other movies.
See The Host. The Host. It's so good.
That's my next one.
I feel very childish saying this right now after you guys, but I really do love Tim Burton. I love animations. I love like those like dark, twisted, like colorful, like fantasy. Like those worlds are like what I would choose to live in. Also, I love whoever created Pan's Labyrinth. I don't know if you guys know that. Yeah. Yeah, that is one of like my favorites. So anything that looks like that, I love those.
That is all the time we have. Thank you so much, Tayarisha, Celeste, and Lovie for joining us today. This is so much fun to chat with you all.
Thank you all. Thank you for doing this. This is great.